Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Inshallah, your Ramadan is going well and with a lot of blessings. This is our second Qur'an Feast session with Brother Faraz. So I will quickly introduce him and also receiving Nur, and then we can get started, inshallah. Okay, so today's session will be on verses 98 from chapter 16 about what it means to seek refuge. Brother Faraz is a graduate of IUB. He teaches religious ethics at William and Mary. He is or can be a little long-winded, disorganized, or repetitive, as you're about to find out, but he can't seem to keep heart unbroken for too long, and hence he's motivated to turn to revealed truths for help and perspective. He will be speaking today in that latter capacity. I just want to point out that we don't write the bios, so I'm a big fan of Faraz and his reflections on the Quran. So I hope that we will all benefit, inshallah, from today. And for anyone who is joining us for the first time, Receiving Nur is a nonprofit which has been around for over 10 years. Our motto is grounded faith, peaceful surrender, inspired living. Grounded, too often faith is understood as blind belief, something to believe without evidence or without certainty. Yet the Quran invites us to Iman, faith that is grounded in enlightened reasoning and seeing the signs or ayat all around us and within us. Surrender is another keystone. It is a choice that flows from grounded faith. It is transformative and brings peace. And finally, inspired living. It's living in the presence of God, guided through life as an inspired abd. As we get to know and love our Creator and surrender, we will experience this inspired living, inshallah. Ramadan Qur'an Feast is meant to offer a taste from the guidance of the Quran. And we also invite you all to explore Ramadan resources and mindful Ramadan daily exercise at receivingnur.org. And our YouTube channel has playlists of our previous retreats, study circles, and lectures on the Quran as well. So without further ado, oh, and Dr. Yamina just joined us. So these Quran reflection sessions we are holding with the help and commentary from Dr. Yamina. So inshallah, we can all benefit greatly. Go ahead, Dr. Faraz.
Well, hello, everyone, and peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum. What I want to share is that, like I said, it's brief, is that you might find yourself, or we find ourselves in a world where we live in expectation and anticipation of good things. We hope that whatever is good will last, whatever is beautiful will endure or increase, whatever is not beautiful will go away, disappear, or maybe at least stop bothering me. So we find ways to not be too bothered. We might. But the question remains of the fear remains, the fear of the loss of what I have, the disappointment of not having what I want. And to the extent I face it, I question, I ask, or I find myself asking, like, what does it mean? How do I make sense of this reality in which I face sudden or gradual disappointments, shocks, and the life that I'm living, the life plans I have, they uh, suddenly, unexpectedly, almost get subverted by the news of some sickness that afflicts me or someone I love or some loss around me. Uh, and suddenly, all that life plan that I have, sort of this safety and, you know, um, assurance that I have, the trust that I have that things will just continue in a good way and towards something better, uh, get get shattered. Uh, and and when they do shatter, I find myself very disappointed, very averse, uh, and what has happened is very troubles me greatly, and I want to be away from it. I want this. I don't want it for myself. Uh, and so when I turn to Revelation, or when I think, let me not make it about myself, but let me, although it is, how I felt, but I'll put it in a way that so the audience can, forget about me, but maybe relate, try to see if they relate to this. Um, is that when one turns to Revelation, uh, I was struck by this, the notion of Satan, and also, intrigued by this notion of Satan being the accursed or Rajim, however you want to translate it. I'm not going to worry too much about what the correct translation is, but something you want to throw stones at, or something you want to go away. Uh, um, and I was asking myself, what is my maker telling me? What that uh, that's it's speaking about my life. Is he speaking about my life to help me? Uh, when he tells me that he has created, or in my reality, I can see, or I should try to see, uh, that Shaitan is Rajim. And, so maybe for me to say that, oh, uh, what is, there is something in this reality that I experience as Rajim, something that I get upset with, disappointed with. And the Quran is giving me sort of a language for it, that, that is Satan. And again, not this verse, but other places that I'm not going to cite the verses because I don't remember, but uh, what I sort of understood about what I found regime in my life is that it, without realizing, I had accepted a false promise. Or rather, I should say, I had accepted a promise, um, and it is turning out to be false. And as that promise turns out to be false, it breaks my heart and it hurts. Uh, and that is the sort of the revelation and the realization that the promise that I had trusted, uh, it was a false promise. it didn't hold up. Uh, it it is betraying me. Um, and so, whereas previously what is sort of this puzzling events in my life, these disruptions, these things that I don't want, but they happen. Uh, and the minor inconveniences I can get over, sort of I think that I can get over until things happen that, or they accumulate so much that you're like, why is my life just a struggle of trying to look at the bright side and all these, or why do I have to struggle in this world like this? Uh, and the question becomes like, no, it shouldn't be like this, or if it is like this, life is terrible, uh, and really I don't want it. Uh, or you say, well, what is the meaning of this? Uh, and so when I look to the meaning, if I look for the meaning, I found that what the the Quran's proposal was, and again, one could say yes to it or no to it, but I think we should say yes to it because it's makes sense. Uh, is it the good and the beautiful that I've seen? And I'm going to just use the word life for everything good and beautiful, just kind of, going with the verses that come um, after 98, especially uh, uh, let me see, where did uh, I'm losing the track of, um, well, actually, it's not the verse after this, but the verse before, uh, which talks about this, we give you, cause life to be a good life, hayatan tayyibatan. This is the wholesome, good life. So anyway, I'm just going to use the word life as a shorthand for everything you love and that's good. Uh, so I'm using it only to refer to that. Uh, and so when I live life,
Faraz, could you please read the verse?
oh, sorry, yes, sure. The verse there, 97 or 98?
Both.
Okay, both. So I'll read the English only so I don't butcher the Arabic maybe. Or okay, I'll read the Arabic. So it's 97 says, Man amila salihan min dhakarin aw untha wa huwa mu'minun فلنحيينه حياة طيبة ولنجزينهم أجرهم بأحسن ما كانوا يعملون. And translation that I have from Asad says, as for anyone, be it man or woman, who does righteous deeds and is a believer, him shall be most certainly caused to live a good life, and most certainly shall be granted unto such as these their reward in accordance with the best of what they ever did or what they do. And then verse 98 says, فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. So whenever you happen to read the Quran, seek refuge with God from Satan the accursed. And let me read a few other verses also. إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ لَهُ سُلْطَانٌ عَلَى الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. Because he has no power over those who have found safety with God or have faith in God and in their sustainer or on their sustainer they trust. إنما سلطانه على الذين يتولونه والذين هم به مشركون. And he has power only over those who are willing to follow him and who ascribe to him a share in God's divinity. And then there's a verse about the baddalna, the one ayah, one sign being substituted for another sign, and people not being happy about it. Uh, uh, people it's and from verse 103, like it's a foreign idea, it looks a strange idea. And anyway, so I don't want to, I it if I keep reading the verses, it will take the audience into all maybe too many things at the same time. And again, we can do that once I finish. So I'm sorry, I'm taking my sweet time. But so I want to focus just on Shaitan or Rajim and what does it mean to when you approach revelation that you are, the verse, the translation could be you should, or that is what is going to happen, or what revelation uh, is bringing to me is the refuge from the accursed Satan. And what that is, that I want to, what is the truth of that Shaitan regime in my life is that uh, it is the how should we say, the anger, the disappointment, the dislike, the aversion, the hatred, the frustration that I have with a false promise, with a promise that has broken. Uh, and what it tells me is that as I, for example, live my life and find it something wonderful, I would like it to be more wonderful and like to have life and not lose it. I am, without realizing, and couldn't be otherwise because I don't have anything before I've turned to revelation, is that I'm in love with this life and I trust this life to be a beautiful thing as it appears to be. And, if life was unbearable and ugly completely, I wouldn't be deceived. I couldn't be tricked into wanting it. But it is so wonderful. There's so many things that are so wonderful. Just being alive, just having these relations, hopes, good things happening to people, getting happy. There's so many things to look forward to. That I'm in love with life, and I'm in love with the hope of it being better. I trust that life will be better. Everything in life will be better. It will continue. What I don't have, I will get, hopefully, and what I have, I won't lose. And so this is my trust in sort of life itself. When I do that, I found myself and we find ourselves heartbroken because we lose, or that life that we have put our trust in to fulfill us, it doesn't deliver. I have plans to go tomorrow to some dinner, but tonight I might not feel well and go to the hospital, and the test comes out and says, well, I have 6 months to live. Oh, well. Next year I had a plan, and the following year I had another plan, and in 5 years I'll save enough for something else. I mean, all the life and hopes that I've built, they're just scattered. They're they take a hit and the heart breaks. And this is dislike to me. And the revelation comes and says, look, you put your trust in something that was a false promise. What you sought and what you loved, your meaning for those things, they were, let's say, they were assigned to you, like you have life, maybe you have good health, and for you that was a sign that I'm going to have this now, and I can count on it. I can count on having this life, forever. But it's not. But it's not. It's a false forever. It's not forever. It's well, in this way, it will just continue here like this and get better. But it's false because the reality doesn't match it. It's I love health, and I can say, oh, yeah, I'm in love with health, and I want this to be, and this health means that I'm going to have it. But when I see my life, it's not like this. My health is not perfectly and always with me. So this betrayal and the disappointment, and therefore this uh, anger I feel, people express it differently. People go quiet. People paint. I had a friend who died 4 years ago of a tumor, and towards the end of his life, he was very calm, but he started making this painting with these metal pens, and you had to make the painting by scratching the canvas, the picture into it. And it was really a lot of, and he was asked about, what are you doing here? He says, I like there's a lot of screaming inside of me, and I'm screaming through my painting. So he was otherwise very calm, but he was screaming through his painting. And the scream that we feel towards, this life or the world, Revelation comes and says, that is that false promise that you saw as the source of what you love, or what you saw as lovable in itself. Uh, and you were wrong. Uh, that is the shaitan al-rajim. When you take something to be what you truly love in this world, it will disappoint you. And when it disappoints you, you will feel like angry towards it and hitting it with stones. And I say, that the revelation I found in my life is true to my experience. I live in a world where there is shaitan al-rajim. And when and if I follow this way of this perspective, uh, I end up very hurt whenever I feel this life here I'm living is mine, or this life is there to be lived and enjoyed by me without any notion of what is the truth about this life, what is the truth about me having this life and loving it. It becomes something hated to me, and I might deny it, I might cover it, I might not like to focus on it, but and I found the verse 98, when it's saying, when you come to the Quran, what you should be asking for, what is here, what the revelation is offering you, is to see that you have a refuge in the one who truly is the source and the sustainer of life, for example. So this life that you can safely live, safely love, is the life that would be sustained by him. if you don't see your life sustained by Him, it is not a life you can safely love or live. You must stone it. You will feel like it's something that fails you, that betrays you. Um, and so, yeah, so that's what I understand. The verse could help me make sense of why it is that when something that I like so much, I also have this uh, potential in that same thing that I love to deeply hurt me and become so painful to me. Uh, how it is that I can think about this, my reality, as this potential of being deceived, which is almost inevitable in a way until I turn to Revelation, and Revelation reminds me that uh, what you need to see when you, for example, see life is the face of God in translation. You should see the living one giving life to you, to the things. By His life, you are living. Uh, and so once you have really given that life in His hands, then you can be safe. You don't, because this, from this realm where life is from Him, there is the realm where the life is Him. It's all one realm, and I'm no longer uh, reducing life to life that only manifests in a particular form, a material form, on a body or in this material world. I need to see uh, that my life doesn't mean that I'm alive. That's not a satisfactory. This needs to be replaced. This meaning of life, that this life means that I am alive and I will be alive here. From this, it needs to be replaced with the meaning that I have a Lord, a sustainer, who is a living one, who can give me life and is giving me life. And with Him is the life that I want and I love. And now I can safely live and love life. And to the extent that when I don't love what has happened in life, or my disappointment is always sort of really aimed at the Satan that I took to be the one that's offering me promise, the one I can trust. And when the trust is broken, I am sad. And so as we go through life, I find myself again and again uh, disappointed. And every time I'm disappointed or broken, I can return to myself and I say, oh, your disappointment comes from putting your trust in something that didn't have what you wanted from it. It's not theirs. Life is not here just on its own to give you and can give you life. There is a life giver. And so your disappointment makes a lot of sense, So from going from the puzzle of why am I disappointed, maybe I shouldn't be disappointed, it makes me understand that no, I should really be devastated and disappointed and angry at what I take to be falsely the provider of what I need, the false sustainer, and that's shaitan. And so now all the anger and ire that I have has its place in this world, and that is meant for all that I falsely took to be what is beautiful. Uh, and so you know, it kind of puts in place, or gives, to me at least, a possible satisfactory meaning to my my experience of deep disappointment and deep frustration, because in a way, sort of that's how it's meant to be. When I create, when I put my trust in what is not, I haven't verified as trustworthy, I haven't seen it as really the source or having the capacity to sustain, I will be disappointed. And that is how it's meant to be. And so anyway, so Shaitan Rajim, for me, I could say to the verse, this is true. There is Shaitan and it's Rajim, and there is Rajim and that's Shaitan, that's the false promise. And I seek refuge from this with the one who is the sustainer, with the one whose life, with whose life I am alive. And so that, being alive means that I have a sustainer who is alive and wants life for me. So that ayah gets changed, the meaning of this having a life and being disappointed with this, the sort of prospect of losing it becomes meaningful in a different way. Anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to share, and I think I'm already dragged it maybe too much and maybe lost some clarity in what I wanted to say when I said it to Isra. And again, 3 or 4 minutes, it seemed much more direct. And but again, it's not something from me, so I only can hope and pray that God opens the truth and meaning of Shaitani Rajim to everyone, and it helps them. So it helps you. I can stop here to clarify things or say more or less on something that you want, or otherwise the moderator can simply open the floor and other people can discuss or share their comments. But I'm happy to say more on something that if you have a question for me, I'm here. So.
So, Faraz, can you give me an example where, like you gave us the example where anger, with your friend's situation, can you give me how would that friend change his attitude, understanding what you just shared?
Right. So I think, I don't know what happened to the friend. He passed away. I never could speak to him about anything, but I think the way I think about or how I experience it in my life is this change between feeling abandoned, persecuted, thrown into a struggle and hard life, and feeling basically like unsafe and insecure, to feeling safe, feeling secure, not feeling that there's anything for me that I can lose. That's, in slang, maybe we say, when someone has nothing to lose. But maybe that means like, they're so desperate, like they're just desperate. But I see that as, and this happens like, I won't be able to tell you that this is something that happens daily or monthly or yearly, but there's no timetable to it. But as I live my life, the more I sometimes I become aware of all the things that worry me. If something might strike me as, oh, I have this wonderful thing, but oh man, I'm gonna lose it, or what if I lose it, or I haven't had this and I've tried so much, but it just doesn't get it. And so there are moments of those burden and heaviness and just unclarity and feeling really sort of losing it and say, what is the point of all this? Or feeling really that life is a burden or a struggle, and that even when I may have what I like, it's disappointment, it's disappointing, and that feeling of betrayal, that not feeling safe, not feeling at in at home in place, the soul is just agitated. And then from that to having sort of a glimpse, and it's quite sudden, I would say. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's it's a matter of realization, and to the extent that it is given, and to the extent it kind of you let your broken heart be a broken heart, that is, you say, oh, it's broken for just the right reason. My heart is broken for just it's perfect. The soul does not uh, accept as sufficient just this life that is subject to loss. It doesn't accept it. And so it's sort of, with this sort of Quranic revelation, finding that, yeah, that's perfect. The soul is telling me that this is a false promise, and the soul is not created. So I see the witnessing of the soul, and that brings us, security that, oh, this is meant to be this way, and the soul is at peace with the one who is its sustainer, the one who, in this case, for example, who is this, whose life this is, whose life this life is. It is not no one's life. It's just not life on its own. It is a living one's life by which I'm alive, everything. And that gives that safety that everyone is in the hands of the living one. And that brings a kind of safety that there's no loss. And that moment in which there is no loss, it's a moment of just, the soul is just, it's immense freedom, it's immense light, it's immense, lightness. Uh, I mean, you're just invincible. It's hard to describe what that feeling is, and the contrast is so drastic that it makes you simply, it makes the soul really cry or break down by saying, like, where I was and look what, where I can be. You get a glimpse of that safety and that connection, and it becomes something really joyful that can be very gratitude inducing. And uh, and and this again, like I said, this it's not like it doesn't happen once, because I don't think of or experience loss, either real or anticipated, once. I did. It just happens as I live. But all the more I have the opportunity to, regime the shaitan regime, and the more I have the opportunity to find security with my sustainer. But I mean, there's many examples. I mean, it doesn't have to actually happen. Like, I can sit and I start thinking of Isa and my son, and thinking, okay, he's doing this, what will happen? I've planned for this. Oh, but what if that doesn't happen? Or even if that happens, then what? And then as I think the challenge sometimes is that people have lots of other shortcuts or other sources that they turn to other than the creator's communication. And so sometimes maybe we don't reach that level of heartbrokenness or disappointment with the world, where we say, no, no cheap consolation is acceptable. I want to get to something that I can really, the soul can say yes to. And I think uh, for me, I had to go to Revelation, and you have to go to Revelation, and you have to see that what God is saying, and you have to check it in my life to say, does that help me? Does that describe my reality? And so I think that's the process that of contemplating signs of revelation. I think, and that creates those moments of transformation. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but whatever, practical particular situation is, I think, like, for me, that has what has worked is that it's to you have to I needed to go to Revelation. I needed to make sense of my disappointment, be reminded of what it was that I was disappointed with, what was it that I was complaining about, and that the revelation helped me make sense, and then it relieves me of that, that my complaining and disappointment doesn't make sense to it makes sense, and that's maybe the darkness to light that I feel uh, in my life as I live, and I want more and more always to be aware. Uh, uh, but again, I get caught off guard, complacent and mindless, more often than I want to admit. And but again, it's not a desperate situation. Now I have something that I can go to and say, okay, I I can ask and beg for that reminder to just to come to my heart, to be given to me, so that I can feel safe. The soul ultimately for me is like ultimately my soul is either in a state of anxiety and unsafety and frustration, or it's safe and happy. Uh, and and that's what I move between in a way.
Jazakallah khair, Faraz.
And I understand that a lot of ideas, I mean, and it's true for me also, when I hear somebody speaking and sharing something, really at the end of the day, I want something practical. Like I want, like, what is the practical relevance, or, in my life, or what I just heard, or what I'm going to understand, because if it doesn't have a real practical path for me to then do, and then it's kind of just still in the air. And so I understand that. And different people may say different things, and what practically uh, what I do, and I'm not saying this is worth emulating at all, but and maybe I should change and do something different. But what I do is uh, I live in a way that breaks my heart again and again, and I just it's not that I enjoy it, but it so happens that I think thoughts, even when they're breaking my heart, I don't ignore those thoughts. I don't, you know, if I'm like, I no longer think that I should only think about good things and not the bad things. So what I practically do is I just let myself feel what is coming, and then I go to Revelation with it, and I say, this is what I ended up with. I tried to be as honest as I could as a human being. I didn't try to cover up. I didn't try to deny or make excuses for things. This is how I'm actually feeling. I don't have any reputation to preserve. I don't have any claim about, oh, I know this. How can I feel this? How I'm such a believer. But so I just say, I am just absolutely terrified of this. And I go to Revelation, run to it again and again, and try to, beg and say, tell me something, what are you doing? Like, why am I feeling this way? And then, sometimes quickly, but sometimes, after, to the extent that I'm honest about my problems, I find Revelation speaks to me. And so I just recommend to people to just, make Revelation something that you go to for revelation, for like something that's revealed, that changes or that can change how you see life. And that's my practice, quote unquote. Like if I have any practice, the practice is just go to Revelation and not leave until I find something revealed. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but
Thank you, Brother Faraz. I'm listening in. As I'm listening, I'm also soaking in both from the surah, the ayat that you referenced, and your interpretation in the context of human um, condition that we deal with. I'm in mental health counseling and I'm a cancer patient and a widow of 6 years young without children. So I understand when we have losses left and right and certain health problems that continue, either because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting all these trials in our lives because there is khair in it, of course. There is some opportunity to continue to delve deeper into self-reflection and see where is it that we can find um, uh, all of those uh, guiding points that Quran tells us that Allah has not forsaken you, Allah has not belittled you, Allah has not um, punished you unless you are disbelieving. And even then, all of the nema, all of the blessings are there with us, right? So I found receiving Noor, I consider it among other groups that I've joined, one of the most integral group with Dr. Yamina and all the sisters here from receiving Noor and also Dr. Ali Manwar's groups when I could join them. And now yours. As a map of support that in and of itself came only because I sought these supports because I was desperate to find out how can I deal with my loss and also how can I not lose hope and be despaired. So I noticed that in many of the other ayats where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us across the whole of Quran that whether it was Anbiya or it's common human woman or man, when Allah is going to test us, He's also going to put there a sense of ease in us, rahmah. And so I think from what I'm getting from your interpretation and of course guidance is that connecting with Quran is one of the best ways to heal. Quran is healing. And I have found it after getting so ill that I thought I will absolutely die. And when I started reading Quran a little bit more reflectively, I felt that this is how I can secure my foothold, if any, in life. Alhamdulillah. So not only is it our priority as Muslims and Muslimas, and it should be, it ought to be, but also that when we are really fledgling because of the trials that overtake us, I think, the doors that open with Allah's guidance and this ilham almost that go write or go read or go reflect, because right now that is all you need, which is that guidance to motivate you to try to do whatever you can to survive this trial and also then some. And for me, that then some is pursue the goals that perhaps were not previously pursued. Now that I have a different realization of my lifetime with a stage 4 cancer, and also knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put so many other supports in my life when He took my husband, his man, back to Him. So when people lose people, family members, loved ones, spouses, children, parents, siblings, or anybody who they consider close to them, grandparents, teachers, mentors, pets, I think that there is this inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un realization that hits us to our core, that everything is going to end and perish except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Jazakallah khair for reflection opportunity today. I appreciate us all connecting here, and I will be following your work. Jazakallah.
There is a question in the chat. Dr. Yamina is asking, can you remind us again, how is it related to shaitan? How is this all related to Surah 16, verse 98? Could you, is that,
So sorry, I was mute.
yeah. Can you pull also the verse to 98 on the screen?
Sorry. The way I understand Shaitan al-Rajim is the alternative description to I really don't like what's happening in my life and it's so devastating, and why is God doing this? That's that the other one, the first one, I'm trying to kind of simplify. Why is God doing this? It's so hard. Why does God make me, feel this? Or why do I have to go through this? And God, God gave me this and God took it away, but God, it's so hard. But that's human being. Saying that's one way to look at life. This is like this is difficult. This is heavy. And the alternative to that is Shaitan al-Rajim. So Shaitan al-Rajim is Revelation telling me, look, Faraz, you find it very difficult that, for example, you had life that you are losing now, that you have a terminal illness, for example, or life itself is a terminal illness, really. So, it's going to end. So you have a life that's going to end, it's ending, and you find yourself very disappointed and upset with this life ending. And what you find disappointing about your life ending is you thinking of your life itself promising you eternal life. It is the suggestion, and Quran called it shaitan. It is the suggestion that this is what you have and it's yours to take, and that's it. There's nothing more you need. And shaitan rajim is the idea that you have made something the source of your life, the thing that you can trust, for example, life itself. This perspective of yours that you have followed, the suggestion, I have made it hateful to you. That's why you feel frustrated. I have made shaitan, which I said very briefly, represents a false promise. I have made a false promise hateful to you. That's why you feel this way. You put your trust in that false promise, and that trust was broken, and now you feel this way. So what you need when you feel this way, what you need to realize, your real refuge is your Lord, me. The life that you were loving kind of on its own and trusting, no, you can't trust your life. You can trust that life as something that is with me. I give that life. You make your Lord me, not something additional to me as your Lord. So when I return back to seeking refuge with me, put your life, expectation of life, love of life as mine. That's I gave you this, and you will have it with me, and you have it with me. So live your life now. Bi ismil la, bi ismil hayy. Love your life, bi ismil hayy. So this in the name of the living one. So Shaitan is Rajim, and this Lord who is really the life giver, is something you can declare is perfect. I was trying to declare this life perfect without thinking of the life giver, and that turns out not perfect. And that to me is the truth of the Shaitan regime. When I think of something as the source, it reveals itself as something hateful to me. So that's how I understand the things that I complain about. I realize that I complain about them because I saw them as the source. I expected from them to last, and I saw them as the source.
Nurban, there are some comments. Did you want to read or shall I read?
Well, yeah, up to you. I can. So, Mrs. Dr. Mina says, so we're focusing on shaitan or rajim only because this expression occurs in other parts of the Quran. Right. Yeah. So I was just picked this verse to think about as why definitely other verses. But yeah, I kind of wanted to just focus on this, the truth of Shaitanur Rajim for me, like how I understand that this is true for me. And probably Mrs. maybe Ibrahim 1422 would be better suited. And I think is Sarah, did you paste that verse 1422?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's a definitely a long verse, and we can, um, do you want me to read the full English, Isra, or do you wanna just let people?
In 1422, the word used for helping, when it says shaitan says in this ayah, I had no power over you except to call you, and you responded my call, so do not blame me, but blame yourself. I cannot help you, nor can you help me. The Arabic that is used here is very interesting because it's asraha. So sarikh is scream, and asraha is to help, because when you are in distress or hardship and you cannot help yourself, you're in despair on your own, so you scream in the hope that you will find some help, someone will come and save you. And so that's why in Arabic, when it's asraha, the one who responds to you and saves you, he removes the reason for your screaming. So he's saying, I cannot remove the reason for your screaming, which is, I cannot help you.
So maybe it's good to read this verse, inshallah. I think this is Asad translation, Quran 14, verse 22. And when everything will have been decided, Satan will say, behold, God promised you something that was bound to come true. I too held out all manner of promises to you, but I deceived you. Yet I had no power at all over you. I but called you, and you responded to me. Hence, blame not me, but blame yourselves. It's not for me to respond to your cries, nor for you to respond to mine. For behold, I have refused to admit that there was any truth in your erstwhile belief that I had a share in God's divinity. Verily, for all evildoers, there is grievous suffering in store.
And the word that is translated as power is sultan, which in Arabic is a little bit different than power. You have sultan on someone when you can either convince him, and so he's totally, you bring him convincing arguments, and then he's convinced and acts accordingly. Or you coerce him, you have the power to coerce him, and again he is made to act. And we are told he has none of those. He can neither convince you nor coerce you.
And so, yeah, this is very clear. The false promise is very clearly, spelled out here. And then the cries, but it's so interesting that cries that you can cry out and I can't respond. And And then it ties to the idea here of regime, that this false promise, this false pretension, false assumption, false idol. We want to stone this. We hate this. We like cursed. Like, why is Satan cursed or stoned? It's because that false promise is not made acceptable to us. We hate it. We push it out. So regime, Shaitan being regime, is something we can actually confirm.
Yeah, I think the important thing to emphasize again, I think it's always done in receiving Nur, that Shaitan is not regime only because the Quran says Shaitan is regime. Shaitan is regime is true because I witness that what is regime in my life as a human being is what the Quran describes as Shaitan, the false promise. The false promise is what breaks my heart, my following this worthless suggestion that I can trust, for example, this life to just be with me, health to just be with me, this without any reason to put all my trust in just this is something that I do, and this is giving something as if trusting somebody's baseless, worthless promise. So I can witness to the truth of this in my life, and I say yes, and it's a good news. Shaitan is regime is really good news for me, because otherwise there's a lot of regime in my life, but I don't know why the hell my life is so hard and why I hate so many dislike so many things, and I lose so many things. I'm frustrated with so many things, and it is all just has no satisfactory meaning. So it's, Shaitani regime's truth or any other claim in the Quran, it's directed at me to try to understand my life and the truth about it, so it will help me. I can witness in my life the truth of it, and I can put it in relation to the false of it that I had before without revelation, and I can say, oh yeah, this brings me some, a good news or a guidance that I didn't have, and it is something that I witness as true. It solves a problem. The mother of all problem, it solves the meaning of my life, good and bad. So yeah, it's and I kind of also, I think, felt it was good to discuss this because people may read, and again, people are free to continue to read, but I think sometimes people read things like, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and they miss out on the truth of that statement, what the truth that it is revealing, that can speak to some falsehood in my life, but if I never ask, what is the truth of this? Is this true? Then I'd never get an answer. So it's good to read Revelation to seek the truth of it, as the verses down in Nahl say, this is truth from your Lord. When truth from the Lord comes, so Revelation is trying to bring truth, and if I don't stop to hear the truth or, receive the truth, then I can just read it and pass on, and it would just be something else. I don't know.
Here, actually, in 1698, it says fa, and the fa is, we find it also in Surah Al-Ma'idah 5, ayah 6, when it says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم. So if you rise to prayer, to salat, then wash your face. So it's like a condition we have to make wudu before we pray. We have to make isti'aza min ash-shaytan al-rajim before we read God's words. Because in order to read God's words, there are steps, preparation, outer, like learning the language and everything, getting ready with time and place, but inward as well. So I have to remind myself, this is God's word. It means this is my creator speaking to me about what? Why am I reading this? And also not relying on myself while reading. I am going to understand it. So I'm all reading God's words and seeking help from Him. Anyways, we can go on that, but it's an active, it's something that we actively need to practice. It's like the Shahada. We say the words, but the words are reminding us of something we are supposed to be practicing. And here also, it's something that we practice, this isti'adah min ash-shaytan. It means I'm not relying on anything except my Rabb, while I am seeking the truth or the message or the meaning from the Quran, for instance, in this particular area, and it can be extended. So yeah.
And I just want to add one thing, and this is, again, sometimes, again, and this is, I didn't find true of myself, like sometimes there is this notion out there that people, don't be disappointed about or complain about anything. And what I find interesting for myself, I don't find that possible or experientially true. But when the Quran says, no, there is actually something that deserves all the curse that as a human being you feel, and that's shaitan. So, uh, in some sort of in shorthand, people say, give to the devil what is due to the devil. So don't try to say there is nothing that I have a problem with. I have no problem with the life just passing. I have no, because I am, well, if you have no problem with life,
Honesty, that's the
yeah,
first,
if you
first
don't
principle.
have a problem with life passing because you really are sure that life is not actually passing and it's actually passing on to life, then sure, of course. But if you want to say, no, 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 it will be for some other reason, I shouldn't say that life, although I feel it's such a like hard thing to bear, life is, I'm losing my life, but I shouldn't be complaining about it. Well, then if you impose that dishonesty on yourself, then you're in trouble, because there is in Revelation to me, the thing that in this world will take and needs from you to give it all the regime, because it's a false promise in this world to you that you recognize as false. And you can't say, oh, I love the false promise. Like this is, so I think I find the revelation much more closer to my human experience than quote unquote religious, discourse that sometimes you find out there. Like when Revelation speaks much more to me to, and closely tracks my actual lived experience, and I can know it's true, than just different sort of philosophical ideas about what I should and shouldn't do. So anyway.
Given that our time is sort of, yeah, we're short of on time, I guess we need to wrap up. Yeah, so Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina, for bringing that connection. And also the earlier in the verse, this was the verse 98, and the earlier verse 96 seemed very relevant from this perspective, because it does refer to, all that it says, all that is with you is bound to come to an end, whereas that which is with God is everlasting. And to recognize that is the key to turning away from false promises, inshallah. So I'll turn it over to Sarah to close out and Jazakumullah khair, Faraz as well.
Thank you very much. And just a quick note on because you said verse 96 or 6, but 97. So no, if like, what is the goal of all this? And verse 97 mentions hayat al-tayyiba, the wholesome or the good life. So this is, all the ways in which we don't find our life good yet. These verses are speaking to me about, what's going on and offering me a way to, ask for and to have hayatun tayyiba, the good life. So yeah.
And
So
then
we have a good life. We have a good life if from what we were doing, the good deeds always come with Iman. And here it's starting to tell us where the good deeds start in 98. To read the Quran, but not read it as I want, with isti'adah min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Just to make some connection, inshallah.
Can isti'adah yamina mean that I'm reading the Quran and focusing on not, focusing on steering away from the causation and keeping my focus on the creator of these causes? Would that be a simple way of
Seeking help
explaining?
from God, I'm seeking relying on Him to understand, not on myself and not on anything else. Shaitan is anything that takes us away from God. So yes, once we understand the main meaning, we can apply it everywhere, inshallah. But how do we start living a good life? By following divine guidance. How do I follow divine guidance? First, by reading and listening and applying what Allah is, how Allah is speaking to me, guiding me. In the Quran, of course, the Quran is also referring to the living Quran in life. And the first thing is seeking help from God, min ash-shaytan rajim. It means there is always that pulling, which we have to be honest with, because if we don't recognize that thing that is always pulling us away from God, from the straight path, then we would read all the Quran and memorize and everything. Maybe we'll pray and do everything, but it will be all in the name of the I, and we'll lose everything. So there are many ways of, many dimensions and ways and degrees of understanding this, but just to make the main connection, inshallah. Yeah, so you're right, Alia. That's one way to understand, inshallah.
We have some other comments. Fatima Noor says, thank you very much, Brother Faraz. This perspective makes shaitan much more real and relatable. Your comment on cheap consolations was also interesting for me.
I don't know if I should thank you or accept your thanks for bringing shaitan to life. but yeah, I understand joking. It's thank you very much for that comment. And yeah, there is nothing that is objection worthy about the divine who is the source of this existence. And so when I find something worthy of my objection, I think the revelation is teaching me, find in what you object to, find in your attitude the false promise that you trusted that is at the root of your disappointment. Your disappointment is not with the divine. It's about you making something worthy of your trust that wasn't worthy of your trust. So it is a guidance for me to say that every disappointment and fear and anything that you feel that makes you want to throw stuff at. It's a very general, regime is a very capacious term, doesn't matter what feeling you name, but at the end of the day, you want to throw something at it. That's regime. So if you find anything regime in your life, it's not God. It's not of God, it's not real. It's you making yeah, you putting your trust in a false promise and feeling the betrayal of it. So that's fine. You're human, you do that. Now come back to God.
Thank you, Faraz. Admittedly, I definitely took for granted seeking refuge in Shaitan for this full first week before engaging with revelation. And in fact, very subtly, like Dr. Amina was saying, I found myself with exactly, and this is why really I enjoy listening to you, exactly the words coming out of your mouth are exactly the thoughts in my head that maybe I just didn't verbalize them out loud. So to hear them out loud is such a refresher. Like, how could this happen? I cannot stand this. I don't like this. I'm so frustrated with this. And it's like this constant or voice that just keeps repeating. And I attribute it to me because I don't like that thing. And therefore, I then, because I think it's me, I forget to seek refuge from shaitan. But if I just pause, like you're saying, and just notice that in reality, that frustration and that anger is because there's something that disappointed me. And that points to something much deeper. And that longing will bring me back to God. So it's no wonder that we must, and there's so much emphasis on not only seeking refuge from shaitan, but even being in the presence and yahdurun, like to be in the presence of this thought, because then it will necessarily, the way that I then, if I think I know and I'm making this judgment, then I'm not open truly to the guidance of the Quran. So unfortunately, we're done with time. We encourage you to keep coming back to Ramadan Feast, inshallah. And inshallah, for the rest of the participants, we will continue next Saturday. Remember that shaitan is an open enemy, so we should be very cautious before engaging with the Quran, because these false promises and this leaning into the creation with our expectations is truly a setup for pain. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. And please all continue lots of istighfar, as Dr. Yamina has reminded us, so that not only individually we are becoming aware of our constant shortcomings, but we can keep the entire ummah in mind and all of humanity as we seek the path of light. Ameen. Thank you all.